welcome back to the Shuffle Squad. We're going to be going over another tier list here. I like to do these tier lists pretty frequently because the metagame's always changing, and I kind of like placing decks on a list, and I know y'all like watching it too. If this video sounds great to you, give this video a like, share, subscribe, and let me know in the comments if there's any decks you want me to add for next week. I think I've doubled the deck since last week or 2 weeks ago or anything. Anyways, we're gonna be going over and kind of putting decks between hot, really good, good, meh, almost good, and then not a fan. I think really where I'm putting these is going to be like for league cups, league challenges, locals. So I might change it up a little bit. So that being said, we got to start off somewhere, and I'm going to start off with our Chaladon. I think the build that I have seen the most with is the one that plays the Rocket Bomb. I think that this deck to me is like the definition of meh. It's not almost good because I think it could win like a league cup or a league challenge. It's just not really keeping up with the metagame. And our Chaladon's kind of phased itself out to like being like below the top 20 or so. Nothing crazy. It's meh. That's all it is. I don't want to go like our Chaladon. We'll go with Dango. Dango Dragapult, I think, is really good. I don't think it's a hot deck right now. But it's close to being a hot deck, and I think it's up there in terms of like these are decks. The hot decks, really good, are all going to be like top League Cup contenders. Good is like fairly okay League Cup contenders, and then I probably wouldn't really recommend below good at that point. But there's various levels, and obviously your metagame can be good. I played Toadscruel at my cup, right? And I think Toadscruel to me is the definition of good. I think that like it's almost meh in terms of the current metagame, but if you find the right metagame for it, it could be awesome. So I don't think it's really up there with the really good decks, but sometimes it can kind of piece in and find its spot in the metagame. So so far we got a pretty good list. We don't have any hot decks so far. Gonna go Mewtwo. I think Mewtwo is... I actually think Mewtwo is probably worse than our Chaladon, so I'm going to go almost good. I just don't think it really holds up well in our current metagame, and I'd rather just see a Spidops build of the deck. It's kind of where I'm at with it. Hopzation, probably going to put it at almost good there as well. I think it's just not really holding up to our current metagame standards. It's fine, but it's not my favorite deck. We're gonna go with Grimmsnarl. Grimmsnarl, very hot deck. I think Grimmsnarl holds its own into the metagame as long as you're not running into a bunch of grass decks. Probably gonna be doing okay there. Porygon, I think it's I'm just not a fan of this deck. We saw someone play it at our local league cups here in the Montreal area. They did not particularly have the strongest run. There's a lot of things going, and I think the Rockets engine's more powerful than Porygon, but it's a really cool deck. Don't get me wrong, not a fan doesn't mean that I'm not a fan of how the deck works. It's just it's how it plays out, and it's possible win right there. Okay, our Chaladon Poison, I think, is probably going to be meh as well. Unfortunately, our Chaladon's just sitting in that category of not really the best, but that's all right. I think Charizard right now falls into the good category. As much as we saw Gabriel win NEIC in seniors, and he had that outstanding season, he played his deck perfectly, and I don't think Charizard really holds up nearly as well into the metagame. So I'm gonna put it at good for now. Definitely more of a metagame call, right? I think there's a lot of decks that can beat Charizard Pidgeot. Just putting that out there. Okay, we are going to go with we're gonna go with Dragapult Dusknoir. Hot deck for sure. I think Dragapult Dusknoir, definitely one of my favorites when it comes down to this current metagame. So Dragapult Dusknoir, definitely a hot deck. Ho-Oh Macargo. I'm definitely going to say that Ho-Oh Macargo is probably going to be almost good. Not really holding up to League Cup standards. I mean, I think that anything you could play at like a League Challenge or something like that, but maybe not a fan. I just don't think those are really great. But yeah, Ho-Oh Macargo hasn't really done too much in its lifetime. Maybe you could be the player that proves me wrong, but I just don't think it's really crushing it. Frostlass, I think, is going to be just good. I don't think it's nearly as strong as Grimmsnarl, but you could find the right metagame for Frostlass is better than Grimmsnarl. If you have any thoughts on that, let me know. Dango, the Dunsparce, I think, like, it's not as good as regular Goldango. So I think I'm gonna actually put this in meh. And it's not to the point where I think it's as bad as Archaludon. If there was a tier above it underneath good, I just can't put it in the same as really good. When I'm gonna put regular Dango in good, I think Goldango Dragapult is really good. I think regular Dango is good. So I'm just trying to tier these off, but I think that this one could easily be good. I just don't think the Dunsparce is as needed, whereas Dracloak, or just having nothing is better. Dracloak's probably just better than the Dunsparce. So I'm out of the pure merit of deck building, the Dunsparce probably isn't cutting it right now as the metagame shifted. Cerulege, I think, is probably just good. Not really much to say out there. It's probably in the same tier as Dango. Doesn't really have the matchup spread that I want. Doesn't really have, like, it's fine. And I think like these are the type of decks that like you could top cut a League Cup with. You could potentially win a League Cup with, but you're playing a little bit on hard mode when you're playing outside of these top decks. Dragapult Zoroark, I think, is incredibly underrated in this format. So I'm going to put it at really good, but I think it's probably more of a hot deck than anything. If anything, I think it's going to be better than straight Dragapult, which I'm just putting at good right now. Straight Dragapult is easily one of the best decks we've seen. It's just the way the metagame shifts, and you could probably play straight Dragapult into a field of Dragapult Dusknoir and see a lot of success. But I do think I like straight Dragapult Zoroark more. So I'm going to kind of sometimes tier these together, but separately in this case. Great Tusk to me is probably meh. It's almost there. Could definitely win against some decks. But I think most decks are able to play around it. There's a reason why we haven't seen it have its huge breakout success. Kind of liking how this list is looking so far. It's looking kind of hot. Blaziken to me is... Oh, I want to put it at meh. It's unfortunate because I think it could just be above in the good tier. It just hasn't had that breakout success, and I think there's been enough people who've tried it out. So probably just not the best choice right now. Same thing with Blissey. I think Blissey, a lot of these like plus Monkey Dory decks fall into the same category where they're either good or they don't fall much more. They don't really keep up with the metagame up at the top. So definitely something to consider. It's better to just be playing Dragapult that also plays Monkey Dory, or Grimmsnarl that plays Monkey Dory. Like decks that play 3-4 Monkey Dories are typically better. And as much as Blissey could play 4 Monkey Dories, it's why would you be playing Blissey when you could be playing Dragapults? That's kind of the thought process there. Garchomp to me is probably just in the good category. It's done okay, and it can definitely have success in the right metagame, but it's not really competing with the decks that are really good or the hot decks right now. Hydreigon, I think, is almost good, but it's not necessarily falling into the meh category. I probably could replace the meh and the almost good when it comes down to it. I feel like I probably could have changed the order of like how they were named, but it doesn't change the tier, right? Joltik, I think, is actually really good right now. It holds its own against a lot of the Dragapults, can beat Gardevoir. Even though it's not favorite, it can still be Gardevoir. Beats Grimmsnarl. I feel pretty good with Joltik box right now. Yanmega, I'm going to definitely put it the meh category, not really keeping up with the rest of the meta game. Zoroark, I think, falls into the good category. Definitely can see some success there. Not going to see too much success, but it's still like, I don't know, we can't look at the results and be like, oh, this deck's bad. This deck is objectively good. It's just not seeing as much play as other decks. And I think like right now, if you know what you're doing with the deck, you could definitely do well with it. But I wouldn't necessarily recommend to pick this deck off and be like, oh, this deck's really good to play. Raging Bolt, I think, is really good, but I think like I rank this deck below the other ones because I think that it's there's higher skill decks above it. So I wouldn't put it in hot decks, even though its results would put otherwise. I think its relative ease is what's causing players to see a lot of success with the deck. No shade towards Raging Bolt. I've definitely seen a lot of success with some of these relative ease decks, but I do think that the right player with Dragapult or Grimmsnarl or other decks might end up having a good chance against a Raging Bolt player. Terapagos, I think, is going to be meh category, not really falling into good anymore. It's fallen out of the metagame a little bit. Dragapult Charizard, I think, falls into the really good category. I think that this deck is solid into most metagames, but not always the best choice. I'm trying to think where else I want to be putting decks. We have Roaring Moon. Roaring Moon, I'm going to put meh. Not really as good, but just slightly under there. I could see a case for this deck. Same thing with Archaladon. I think that these are sometimes outdated archetypes or decks that are just better than the almost good category. Slowking I'm going to put as almost good. I think, like, again, like Shaman has really blocked a lot of some success when it comes to playing these decks. Same thing with Hydreigon. Like, Slowking is just a little bit outside of the metagame. Could be a really cool surprise deck, though. Definitely more on the fun side than being more competitive. United Wings is going to fall into that same category where it's just not really keeping up as much as what we want it to. It's really hard to pull these decks off in this current metagame, but it's not terrible, I guess. Not to say that I think these decks are terrible or anything else like that. Armarouge, I'm going to put at meh. Not really keeping up with the metagame nearly as much as I want to. It's kind of feels like old school Lugia, but also really like hard to pull off. Like, you'll find that some of these meta decks could be good into a couple decks, but then have some severe flaws. So that's something's holding these decks back from being as good. And maybe it's just some play rate too. Pidgeot, I think, is also going to fall into that same category where it's not really keeping up with the metagame. It's a little bit outdated. Not terrible. Definitely could steal some wins, but not really exactly where we want it to be. Typhlosion, I think I'm going to put also into that category. There's a lot of decks that are in this category, especially when we got like 40 plus icons to deal with. I think it's on the fence of being good, but there's too many decks that really hold it back. It's been seeing a decent bit of play rate, but even like Rahul Reddy played it and went only 3-2 at his cup. Not to say 3-2 is a bad record, because that's great for many, but not really getting to those top cuts and better. I really think the good, really good hot decks are going to be like the decks that you're expecting to see at League Cups, the decks that can do well at League Cups. Festival Lead, I'm probably also going to just put a little bit above almost good at meh. I think it's probably the best out of all the kind of like meme archetypes. Not to say that it's a meme, but I think like the kind of central kind of thematic archetypes, I guess, is probably what the thematic archetypes is probably what I'm looking for instead of memes. Sorry to all the Festival Lead believers. I think it's a cool deck, almost good, but not really quite as good. We're going to put Gardevoir. Gardevoir is going to be the third hot deck. I think it really fits up at the top. Gardevoir, Monkey Dory is absolutely like the best deck in format. So these are not ordered, by the way, they're just the categories. Eevee Box, I think I'm going to put at really good. Again, holds its own into most decks in the metagame. Incredibly difficult to play, hard deck to put together. So that's probably what's holding back its play rate a little bit, but it's really good right now. Hydrapple, I'm going to put not a fan. I don't think it nearly holds its own compared to a lot of these other decks. Definitely could be an almost good if we really wanted to, but maybe not there. I think that almost good is also going to feature... you want to know what? I'll put it at meh for the Milotic. I think Milotic could be cool, but it's not necessarily my favorite deck. And I think it's like there's better kind of wall stall decks right now, like Iron Thorns Cressel, which I'm going to put into the kind of good tier. I think that on a good day, if you avoid some of the top decks that like Gardevoir, for example, that I don't feel like you have the best matchup against, you could be okay. But we'll see. Iron Thorns can definitely backfire severely. Terrabox, I think, is probably going to be meh. Not necessarily my favorite deck when it comes down to it right now, because Shaman really took away half of its kind of gameplay. But otherwise, in terms of a big basic deck, it's kind of cool. We have the new straight Raging Bolts. I think the straight Raging Bolt that doesn't play Noctowl, probably I'm going to put it into the meh category. It's not as strong as the regular Noctowl builds. That's where I'm at with it. It won the Japanese championships, but that doesn't really mean too much to me. Like, it's barely in the mag category. I think it could be good, but I think it's a little bit outdated. And then Spidops Lock, I'm gonna put also into the mag category. It hasn't really proven itself right now, and in best of one, it could just take a while to get those games off. So I mean, I think like the hot decks and really good decks again are mainly being the top 10 or so, really, with one of these decks breaking into the top 10 at any given point, from good, right? Like we go hot, really good, good, and then we have kind of the bulk of decks that kind of exist. I think of the metagame as a sandbox where all the decks are kind of playing together. These are like what kind of breaks into the sandbox of the metagame overall. The almost good decks we could see pop up. And I mean, I think decks like Mewtwo are definitely going to have players kind of flock to them a little bit more than even decks in the mech category. But I feel like they're kind of outside of the metagame looking for an opportunity to enter in. And then Porygon fell off the slide a little bit. It's struggling here. It's scraped its knee bad, and its mom is getting it some bandages. That's what we got going on for video today. Sorry, Porygon. I think you're a really cool Pokemon. I just wish you were a little bit more competitive. But I hope that this helps you kind of see where the metagame is going. I do like kind of doing these tier list videos to see if things adjust. I might change my mind on some decks some weeks or another. So if I think that there's an opportunity for me to kind of do a tier list, I definitely can. Maybe I'll do one next week for... what's it called, Black Bolt, White Flare formats, because that's going to add in a few more archetypes. But yeah, stay tuned for more great content if you're looking to get ready for League Cups, League Challenges, Regionals, Worlds. I do offer Pokemon TCG coaching, so hit me up on my Metafy. All of the stuff's linked below. So yeah, I appreciate y'all watching. Have yourself a great week and catch up soon. Peace out and have a great one. Want to support the Shuffle Squad? Be sure to check out all of our sponsors in the description to pick up Pokemon TCG singles, sealed, and PTCG live codes.
Tabi no hajimari wa tsune ni michi e no ippo de aru. Sore wa yami e to tsuzuku. 初めの一歩を踏み出すには勇気がいる。そして旅の終わりには旅を始めた時の自分とは別人になっているかもしれない。旅に出よう。物語の次の章がお主を待っている。将軍の道を歩め。侍の箱とともに。アルティメットガードが送る冒険の第一章。刀将軍の道近日発売。
Thank you so much for watching this video. I hope that you enjoyed the content that we have today, and maybe you'll click on one of these other videos, enjoy those videos too. If you haven't already, give this video a like, subscribe to the channel, and let us know in the comments what video you want to watch next. Until next time, we'll catch up with all y'all later. Have yourself a great day.